Movies slip through the cracks for all kinds of reasons: bad timing, box office bombs, or stories that were just too strange. These 10 forgotten films never got the attention they deserved. Maybe it's time you took a second look. The Fortune. Nicholson and Beatty fighting over a woman, on and off set. You've got two of the biggest names in Hollywood, both trying to outdo each other with slapstick and cheap tricks. They play two schemers out to marry, then murder a naive heiress for her fortune. But Stockard Channing, in her first big role, flips the whole movie on its head. She's awkward, sharp, and somehow always one step ahead of the guys who think they're running the show. The comedy is mean. Nobody here is pretending to be a good person. Fake weddings, backstabbing, and enough bad ideas to fill a dozen old screwball films. Director Mike Nichols could barely keep Nicholson and Beatty on the same page. Studio heads hated the test screenings, argued about the tone, and nearly pulled the film before it even got released. At the box office, The Fortune completely bombed. It got buried in reviews, left off most lists, and quickly forgotten. But look closer, and you see a fearless riff on old Hollywood comedies, one that's sharper and bolder than anything its stars usually did. If you want to see big actors drop their guard and go for broke, this one still hits harder than most. The World's Greatest Lover. Gene Wilder auditioned real bakers to play the lead, then cast himself and went all in. You get Wilder as a hopeless baker who decides to become a silent film heartthrob, even if it means risking his neck on every slapstick stunt. The movie throws every physical gag in the book at you: chases, pratfalls, pie fights, Wilder going full silent movie lunatic. He's got no shame, no safety net, and it shows. He nearly broke his neck more than once, but every scene is about making you laugh, not about looking cool. The critics weren't kind. Most wrote it off as too broad, too desperate. The box office went cold fast, but fans didn't let it die. People who love Wilder's weird energy and old-school slapstick traded tapes and kept this one alive on late-night TV and video stores. Now it's a mess, but it's the kind of mess that gets under your skin. The World's Greatest Lover is too sweet and too weird for modern comedies. If you're tired of safe, polished movies, put this on. You'll see Wilder take wild swings, miss sometimes, but always aim for something you don't get anymore: risk, heart, and a punchline you never see coming. The Wrong Box. Michael Caine, Peter Sellers, and a corpse nobody wants. Welcome to Victorian England. The whole plot? Inheritance scheme so tangled you lose track by the second act. Two elderly brothers waiting for each other to die, a fortune on the line, and a body that keeps turning up in the wrong place at the worst time. Sellers goes completely off script as a bizarre, nervous doctor, and every scene with him has a different punchline than what's on the page. The chase scenes run on pure farce: carriages, funerals, secret meetings, even a coffin swap. The cast almost mutinied over the film's ending, arguing with the director and studio about how weird things should get. You can feel the chaos on screen. When it landed in '66, nobody knew what to do with it. It was too odd for mainstream, too dark for comedies, and too silly for the art crowd. Critics were baffled. Audiences moved on. The film faded, except for a small group of diehards who knew what they had. Watch it now and you get a movie that's ahead of its time. Sharp, cynical, and loaded with jokes you barely catch the first time. The most British black comedy you've never seen. The Tall Guy. Goldblum in a full-body allergy rash, plus a musical called Elephant. You get Jeff Goldblum as a struggling American actor in London, but the real story is him stuck playing second fiddle to a monster of a stage star, Rowan Atkinson, before Mr. Bean took over the world. Atkinson's performance is brutal, hilarious, and honestly steals every scene. He plays it so big and petty that you start rooting for Goldblum just to survive rehearsal. Then comes Emma Thompson, her first leading role, bringing charm and sharp timing. The script, Richard Curtis before he got famous, throws every gag and sight gag it can at you. Physical comedy is everywhere. Goldblum bumbling through disasters, Atkinson's vicious stand-up, and the most bizarre musical number you'll ever see: Elephant. The Elephant Man as a tap-dancing stage show. When it hit theaters in '89, it tanked in the US. Audiences didn't know what to make of it. But in the UK, it caught on, launching Thompson and giving Atkinson another stage to work his chaos. You watch it now for the Goldblum slapstick, for Curtis's wild humor, but mostly to see Atkinson tear up the screen. No other comedy goes off like this. Enjoying the hunt for hidden gems? Don't miss out. Subscribe to VintageVerse for more lost classics and deep dives. Hit the bell, drop a like, and let us know your own favorite forgotten films in the comments. Cold turkey. They filled an entire town with real chain smokers for the shoot. What could go wrong? A tobacco company offers $25 million if an entire town quits smoking for a month. Dick Van Dyke stars as the frantic reverend who decides to lead the charge. You get mass quitting gags, desperate nicotine fits, and Van Dyke barely holding it together as the town slowly goes insane. Norman Lear, known for sharp satire, didn't pull punches. He skewered corporations, politicians, and the media. Advertisers hated it, and theaters got nervous. The studio got cold feet, and despite Van Dyke's name, the movie tanked hard at the box office. Funny thing though, it inspired a real quit smoking campaign years later. But audiences in '71 missed the joke, finding it either too mean or too strange. Too cynical for standard comedy, too absurd for serious commentary. It vanished quickly from theaters. Watching it now, you're surprised by how savage and accurate it still feels. Cold Turkey nails America's hypocrisy about addiction, profit, and publicity. It's too sharp, maybe too real to air comfortably on primetime TV, even today. And that's exactly why it's worth your time. The Heartbreak Kid. Nobody does awkward like Charles Grodin. He got heckled on the street after this movie. Grodin plays a clueless newlywed who falls for another woman during his own honeymoon. The infamous egg salad scene alone, Grodin quietly losing it as his bride keeps asking if he's happy, makes you cringe and laugh at once. Sybil Shepherd doesn't help. She's the object of Grodin's wandering eye, casually stealing every scene by doing next to nothing. Her calm only amplifies Grodin's slow burn panic. Director Elaine May knew exactly what she was doing, layering dark humor over what should have been a simple comedy. But her sharp, cynical take rattled the studio so badly they barely promoted it. Audiences weren't ready either. Romantic comedies usually reassure you. This one makes you squirm. It's funny, sure, but also uncomfortable in ways Hollywood rarely allowed back then. And honestly, that's why it's brilliant. The laughs come from quiet, brutal honesty about human selfishness and delusion. Today, watching Grodin maneuver through polite disasters, you'll see exactly why it still feels dangerous 50 years later. It's a comedy that never pulls its punches, never apologizes, and leaves you unsure if you're allowed to laugh. Hopscotch. Walter Matthau made up most of the jokes, and the CIA actually loved this movie. Strange combo, right? Matthau plays Miles Kendig, a veteran agent who decides he's had enough of bureaucratic nonsense and goes rogue, humiliating his bosses by writing a tell-all memoir. The cast improvised entire scenes, making everything feel loose, natural, and genuinely funny. Matthau especially pushed limits. His casual swearing almost earned an R rating for language alone. Yet the real surprise? The CIA consultant approved almost every line. Turns out spies appreciate sarcasm as much as secrecy. But Hopscotch never got much attention back in 1980. Spy films meant Bond-level action, not subtle digs at office politics. Audiences missed the point, critics shrugged, and the movie quietly faded. Over time, though, it's become the kind of cult hit you stumble onto late at night and can't turn off. It's not about shootouts. It's about wit, charm, and how effortlessly Matthau dismantles spy cliches. Watch it now and you'll realize spy movies rarely feel this breezy, clever, or casual. It's a forgotten comedy that's sharper than it looks, and easier to enjoy than any Bond movie you've rewatched too many times. The In-Laws. The famous serpentine bit wasn't even in the script. Alan Arkin nearly walked off set laughing. That's what you get when you pair Arkin with Peter Falk as mismatched fathers-in-law caught up in an international espionage mess. Falk went off script constantly, and Arkin barely kept a straight face. Their chemistry, pure comic chaos. You'd think that would mean guaranteed success, but nope. On release, nobody really got it. The box office was weak. It took late-night cable reruns in the '80s for audiences to catch on, realizing what they'd missed. This isn't slapstick. It's dry, absurd, and surprisingly tense. Falk casually talking about CIA ops over dinner, Arkin's suburban dentist losing his mind, These performances click in ways most buddy comedies don't. It's overlooked today because people confuse it with a forgettable remake or write it off as lightweight. Big mistake. Watch closely, and you'll spot one-liners funnier than entire movies today. It makes paranoia hilarious, turns spy thrillers inside out, and after seeing it, you'll never look at suburban dads the same way again. A New Leaf. The director tried to kill her own movie, then saved it in the editing room. Walter Matthau stars as Henry Graham, a spoiled millionaire who loses it all and decides the solution is to marry rich and murder his bride. And Matthau is brutal here. Cold, calculated, and somehow funny without ever winking at the audience. Elaine May wrote, directed, and co-starred, and behind the camera it was pure chaos. She fought constantly with the studio over her dark vision, delivering a cut over 3 hours long. Paramount panicked, took control, and slashed it down, convinced the film was doomed. But Elaine May's sharp editing saved it, transforming disaster into dark comedy gold. Despite critical praise, audiences didn't quite get it in '71. Too mean, too cynical, maybe too clever. Paramount practically buried it. Today, though, it's rediscovered as a cult gem. Beneath Matthau's heartlessness, and he really goes for it, is a strangely endearing sweetness that sneaks up on you. This film isn't just a comedy. It's a lesson in how ruthless filmmaking can sometimes create something quietly perfect. Watch it once, and you'll wonder how something this funny and bitter slipped by you for so long. Hatari, 1962. John Wayne wrangling wild animals in Africa. No stunt doubles, just real chaos. You get a wild mix of adventure, comedy, and moments that feel almost unscripted. Howard Hawks kept the cameras rolling while the cast went head-to-head with charging rhinos, elephants, and whatever else wandered into frame. These aren't staged animal stunts. This is real risk, all caught on film. You couldn't make this movie today. No studio would let actors this famous get anywhere near that level of danger, and animal safety rules would shut production down before lunch. The cast did their own catching, sometimes getting knocked around, and the crew just kept shooting. Elsa Martinelli and Michelle Girardon aren't window dressing. They're right there in the thick of it, working alongside the men, chasing animals, and getting into just as much trouble. The dynamic feels fresh, even now. Back in '62, Hatari was a hit. Henry Mancini's Baby Elephant Walk hit the charts, and audiences came for the action and stayed for the offbeat charm. Over time, though, the film faded, maybe too loose, maybe overshadowed by flashier blockbusters. Today, you never hear it mentioned, even though it's one of a kind. Watch it now, and you see why it's forgotten and why it shouldn't be. There's nothing else like it. For old-school dangerous filmmaking, this one stands alone. Some gems never stay lost forever. They're just waiting for you to hit play. If you discovered a new favorite, subscribe for more VintageVerse. Drop a comment with your own hidden gems, and keep the hunt going.